Hey up everybody, my name is Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk about the increase in authoritarianism across the UK. This isn't an easy video to make because it's one of those things where you've got to be incredibly careful about what you say and how you say it. In fact, this is like the 7th or 8th take that I've done of this video. I keep stopping and starting because I've said the wrong thing, or I've said it in a way that could have ramifications that lead back towards me. Before I started this channel, I experimented with doing a political YouTube channel. They used a very similar kind of formula to this, where I just sat down somewhere and I just talked to the camera in one long continuous take. And I remember I did a video about Michael Gove and how Michael Gove absolutely destroyed my education. In my high school, right, became an academy while I was in year 9, which essentially means it's been privatized. And I watched as my quality of education went downhill. The schooling was really good in year 7, but by the time it was year 11, it was just awful. The teachers were coming in and out, the turnover rate was immense. It was just horrible, like how bad it got, just how absolutely ridiculous it got. And in that video, I said that, quote, Michael Gove is a vampire and I want to stab him in the heart with a wooden stake, right? That's me quoting it, right? Not actually, those are not my real thoughts, even though I suppose I'm quoting myself. But the point is that it's not my real beliefs, okay? And the reason I'm having to say that is because I uploaded the video and I sent it to a mate, and the mate said, you've got to take that down because, yeah, that you could get done for that. You could actually get arrested for saying that. And I thought, what? Really? And he was like, yeah, that's an incitement of violence. And I was like, I said he was a vampire, you know? I didn't actually think that he was a vampire and that I was going to stab him in the stake with a wooden heart. Michael Gove, if you're watching this video, you don't have to worry about me stabbing you in the heart with a wooden stake. Okay, you don't have to worry about that because I'm not going to do that. But do you see the amount of disclaimers I'm having to put on this? I feel like I have to put another one on. I do not want to kill Michael Gove, all right? I don't know how many times I have to say that for it to actually set in, but it's already a worry now that I've said that in terms of making this video. And I feel like I could start another take, but I don't feel like I want to. I want to actually get my point across, which is authoritarianism is on the increase. And not just because you can't threaten to kill Michael Gove with a stake to the heart because he's a vampire, right? I have an entire list of various policy changes, law changes, and just a couple facts. And we're going to read one of them off right now. Between January and August 2024, the Metropolitan Police used live facial recognition technology 117 times, compared to just 32 times over the 3-year period between 2020 and 2023. So between 2020 and 2023, right, so that's 3 years, the police used this facial recognition technology, aka they can use some AI thing to sort of go, oh, that's Josh, he's committing a crime, let's go get him, right? Oh yeah. And you know, you got all like the fucking Blade Runner shit, like zoom in and enhance. That is Joshua Morrison. Send a dispatch out, right? And then suddenly I get a knock on the door saying, oh yeah, you've committed a crime, we're arresting you. How did you know? Because we found you on CCTV or whatever, and we used facial recognition technology. So this technology was used 32 times between 2020 and 2023. Between January and August 2024, so that's a period of about 7 months, it was used 117 times. So that's 4 times more than across that entire 3-year stretch in just 7 months. So what's that? Something along the lines of about 8 times more. We're using this technology 8 times more now compared to just 3 years ago. So that in and of itself is pretty dire, pretty scary, right? But it doesn't end there. So a couple years ago, there was the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill. This bill made a big stink. Everyone hated it. It was basically the Online Safety Act for a couple years ago. And it was actually the video that I was talking, it was the bill that I was talking about in that original video where I threatened to stab Michael Gove through the heart with a wooden stake, which I don't want to do, right? I don't want to kill Michael Gove, right? Please don't kill Michael Gove with a stake through the wooden heart, with a stake through his wooden heart, because I think his heart is probably made of wood. I mean, he's a soulless fucking git. But anyway, point being, This bill essentially made it so that it was to crack down on protests, because there was a big thing, a load of people protesting. You got Just Stop Oil, you had Extinction Rebellion before that, and then you had all the Palestine protests that started up pretty much just after this bill, so it was really good timing. And basically what this bill does is that it makes it an offence to cause public nuisance, or to cause, here's the exact quote, a person guilty of an offence under subsection 1 is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months, to a fine or to both. Or B, on conviction on indictment to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, to a fine or both. So you can get fined and 10 years in prison for causing serious annoyance. Serious annoyance is something that, say, the people that have been supporting Action Palestine, who have been designated a terrorist organisation. So I do not support them. I do not support terrorist organisations, although I don't think that they should have been labelled a terrorist organisation. I don't support them because they are a terrorist organisation. Do you see how many fucking disclaimers I'm having to put on everything? Because there isn't any freedom of speech in this country. We are not allowed to speak freely and to say the things that we actually want to say. This is why I don't make videos about policy particularly often, because we don't have any freedom to say what we want to say, right? And I have to be so careful with every single thing that I say, right? And I just find it absolutely abhorrent. But recently, the police arrested something like 500 people in one protest using this bill as their backing, essentially. So those people were causing serious annoyance or serious inconvenience. And also, summary conviction basically means that you don't need to be indicted, which essentially means that you can be put into jail without a jury trial. So for 12 months, you can be imprisoned for causing serious annoyance without a jury of your peers to actually decide that you're guilty. And if you do have a jury of your peers, then it can be 10 years. But without a jury, so, you know, one of the bedrock foundations of our democracy, the right to a jury trial, right? You can be put away for a year for protesting, for having political beliefs. I remember I met a mate, I met someone, right? Who, they've been banned from America because they're registered with a communist party over here. And they're not actually a communist party, because apparently communism is like a dirty word, that if you call yourself that, particularly in America, it's like another terrorist sort of thing. Communists are terrorists, right? Because they, you know, are terrorists. They're terrible, evil. They're on par with ISIS, right? And what I find really scary about this bill in particular isn't just the fact that it's being used right now to arrest, you know, thousands of people, like old grannies that are going out there saying, "Free Palestine," right? It's going to arrest people like that. What I find scary about it is that it's just been forgotten about. It's in the time vortex. It doesn't fucking matter anymore, because the online safety bill is a new thing that matters, right? And in 2 years, no one will give a shit about the online safety bill, because there'll be another thing that will come out. All the time, there's a new thing that comes out, a new policy that everyone gets outraged about, and then nothing happens. And then it just continues. The cycle will go on again and again and again, right? So what I find really scary is another one which happened in 2024. The Conservative government changed the definition of extremism, right? So the old definition was done in about 2011. This is the old definition. Extremism is vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values, including democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, and mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. We also include in our definition of extremism calls for the death of members of our armed forces, whether in this country or overseas. So I can't, for instance, do any of that. I can't say, "Oh, I'm glad that Iraqi soldier that British soldier in Iraq got killed." Can't say that, okay? So I'm not saying that, right? I wish he lived, whoever he was. The new definition, right, because that was already quite a vague definition, right? They've kind of tightened it up. Extremism is the promotion or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance that aims to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others, or undermine, overturn, or replace the UK system of liberal parliamentary democracy. Right? So anything that is against liberal parliamentary democracy, which essentially means our current neoliberal, you know, status quo, if you're against that, you're an extremist. So most union members that I know, right, most of the sort of left-wing kind of people I know, automatically extremists because they disagree with that idea. And parliamentary democracy, like, for instance, I don't see this current system of democracy as being the best one. So I'm not saying that because that makes me an extremist, which is a bad, crime. I don't want to be an extremist. So I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the current voting system doesn't lead to a working democracy. Nothing about our current system of affairs works, because right now we have three incredibly right-wing parties: Labour, the Conservatives and Reform. And one of those three is going to win in the next election, right? And so the continual status quo will just go on, right? The same way that nothing changed when we switched over from the completely incompetent, austerity-ridden fucking dickheads, right, that were David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. We're carrying on all of their ideals. We're also introducing random new authoritarian things like the online safety bill. We're upholding law, which, by the way, that was passed originally by the Conservatives, but our current Labour government, they obviously don't mind that because they've allowed it to go through without any kind of backlash, no pushback on it whatsoever. Just let it through, right? Oh yeah, anyone who wants to go on some kind of mature sort of thing, they need to now give their ID over to the fucking government, or sorry, to the company, which then gives it to the government. So, a totally different thing. I just find it absolutely fucking sickening how in the last 3 years we have had these three things that have happened that have been an incredible shift away from liberal parliamentary democracy towards an authoritarian autocracy with a phony fucking state of democracy. The same way essentially that Russia operates, where they've got elections, right? Maybe ours aren't rigged, but we don't need to rig ours because all of our parties support the same shit, right? There's hardly any difference between Reform, the Conservatives and Reform, the Labour, Conservatives and Reform at this point. There just isn't a difference between them. The only difference you're getting is ever so slight little changes here and there, right? They all hate trans rights. They all fucking hate the idea of freedom of expression. They all hate liberal parliamentary democracy, essentially. They all fucking despise it, right? And there's been a couple of proposals for digital ID, universal identification, right? Which would mean that you would have to have a mandatory app. It would have to be on your phone, right? So you need a smartphone now, by law essentially, because you need to have this app, right? This is a proposal called BritCard, right? BritCard is a proposal that's been put forward by a think tank called Labour Together, who they essentially advise a Labour government. That's what they say they do. They got their initial funding by a guy called Martin Taylor, who he owns, was it Nevsky Holdings, which is essentially a big, what the fuck are they called? Basically, he owns a big company that invests in stocks and shares, right? It's worth about $1.5 billion. And one of the things it invests in is Gazprom, the national fucking oil company for Russia. So they're wonderful, right? So Labour sitting there acting like they're fucking so anti-Russia, they're so pro-Ukraine, but at the same time, they're taking policy suggestions from a think tank called Labour Together that was funded by someone who funds Russia. So fucking wonderful that, right? Absolutely fantastic. BritCard, this is quoted from them, by the way. BritCard, a mandatory national digital identity that would be issued free of charge to all those with the right to live or work in the UK. Right? The BritCard would be a verifiable digital credential downloaded onto a user's smartphone, which could be instantly checked by employers or landlords using a free verifier app. So, but at least I don't have to pay for it. Great, right? But now I'd have to have an app on my phone. If these people get their way, I would have to have an app on my phone that would have all my fucking ID on it, right? Oh, that's just asking for identification theft. And that's not even the main problem with it. I think my main issue with it, this sort of shit that happens in like China, right? People like to bang on about like how China is so authoritarian, so evil, right? And they are. But at the very least, They're able to get a fucking working high-speed rail system. They're able to have functional investment into infrastructure, right? Their economy grows like nothing else, right? And the people that live there were living in fucking poverty 40 years. They've lifted something like 800 million people out of poverty in the last 40 years. Meanwhile, we're plunging more people into poverty and introducing authoritarian fucking laws, just like what China's doing. So I despise all of this. This is all fucking evil, right? Absolutely fucking evil, right? And then you've got the Online Safety Bill of 2025, the most recent of these extreme authoritarian fucking indictments on our civilization, right? The Online Safety Bill is essentially censors the entire internet. Let's just flat out say what it is. It censors the entire internet. You can watch a million other videos that go in depth into what it does, how it does it, blah, 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 right? But now, if you want to go onto some kind of mature forum or some kind of mature content, right, which can include stuff like, you know, political advocacy groups or, you know, queer fucking, you know, support forums, addiction forums, right? And the main thing which it is meant to target, which is pornography. You try and go on any of these things now and you get this pop-up, right, that says you can't go on this, and it says verify your identity. And you can do it one of two ways. You can do it either by uploading a picture of your passport or your fucking driver's license or whatever, or you can do this. So it's taking a picture of you through your phone, right? And then it sends that God knows where, right, to verify you. And that data is totally secure. It's never going to get in the way of anything. Oh, also, they're cracking down on encryption, end-to-end encryption. So now the government can basically override that. So sod all of our freedoms. So, you know, you want to talk about something kind of controversial or political on WhatsApp or whatever, it's meant to be an end-to-end encrypted service. Oh, you can fuck right off to jail. Right, no interest in you. Right, just off to jail with you. You've done hate speech or whatever. Fucking evil. And I know this video isn't massively coherent, right? And I know I've kind of jumped around all over the place. I just can't get over the fact that we are on such a decline. We are in such an awful state of affairs, right? That I'm not the most politically fucking inclined person. I've probably gotten things wrong in this, right? But if anything, the things that I've gotten wrong, I bet it's even worse than what I'm saying, right? I'm just having a look at a couple. There's one other thing, right? So there's a digital ID. Right, this is a suggestion that a mate gave me, right, to talk about this digital ID, which is separate from the BritCard thing. So the digital ID is non-mandatory, but it will prohibit your access to single-sex spaces, right? I'm going to try and find the exact thing that she sent me, which essentially, these digital IDs, it's a little bit more official. It's not a proposal from a think tank. This is coming from within the government itself, and it's currently going through the parliamentary procedure of going through the House of Lords, the House of Commons, or the second reading, third reading, all this bullshit, right? Essentially, it's a proposal like BritCard to have all of your identification in one place, right? Tony Blair tried to do this shit 20 years ago, right? Can we fuck off? The British people don't want a fucking universal ID system. They don't want it, right? Look, you wanna prove you're 18 to go to the pub and get a drink? You can get a fucking driving license, right? That's sorted. You can get a passport. We have ID. We have these kind of things. You've got, you know, last 3 months of your banking statement has your address on it. It's all sorted. This is fine. We don't need a universal ID, because what's going to happen is, right, I'm walking down the street. I've forgotten my wallet at home. I get stopped for whatever fucking reason, or some random stop and search. You got your ID? No. Fucking come with me, cunt, right? There's no winning here, right? We are losing our freedoms day by day by day, right? To the point where, because I want to have children at some point, right? Say I have a child in 5 years, so in the year 2030, right? That child turns 18 in the year 2048. We have already introduced so many authoritarian measures in the last 4 years. Everything that I have just described here has happened in the last 4 years, right? So what's going to happen in the next 22, 23 years? What's going to happen in the next 100 years? Are we going to get more liberation? Are we going to have more freedoms to do what we want to do and say what we want to say? Absolutely fucking not. We're going to continue down this path because this is nothing new. All that happens is we lose our freedoms day in and day out. Right? You ask anyone that's the age of like 60 what they could get, the shit that they could get away with back then, right? Compared to us now, where everyone lives in this fucking, I don't want to say 1984 because it's fucking lame to make that comparison, but I can't think of anything better. Brave New World, let's change it up a bit. It's like Brave New World. It's like whatever fucking latest dystopian fucking science fiction novel you've read. They're all allegories for the current fucking goings on, right? And this hasn't all just started with COVID. This has started long, long before, right? When was the last time that a law came in that made it easier for you to do something, to have more freedom? When was the last time a law gave you more freedom? I don't have an answer to that because I don't think it's ever happened. All that happens is we lose our freedoms day in and day out, and I'm just so fucking sick of it. I'm sick of the amount of disclaimers that I've had to put on this video, right? So I don't get a knock on the door going, oh, we've used the fucking facial recognition technology to figure out who you are, where you live, and we've decided because you said that you want to stab Michael Gove in the heart of a wooden stake, even though you obviously didn't mean it, we want to put you away for fucking however many years, right? You can't do any of that. It's an incitement of violence. You can't talk about this stuff because you're spreading misinformation because you didn't get every single fucking fact right. Look, don't just take what I say for fucking granted, right? I'm not some like in-depth political team. I'm not TLDR News or whatever. I'm not BritMonkey. I'm not one of these like video essayists who goes and researches shit in depth, right? I came up with these notes in like an hour, right? Just going through various things that I remembered, right? And then looking into them. The most research I did was to figure out that Martin Taylor, this fucking Labour think tank guy, right? The guy that did the initial investment of it, which was something to the tune of like 75 grand, right? The most research I did was figuring out that he invested in Russian oil, which I think that's all a little bit hypocritical. And also, you know, there's the whole like Labour supporting a fucking genocide in Gaza, all that sort of shit. I bet I can't even say that anymore. You know, like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to discuss my own political beliefs, my own political opinions, and my own fucking worries about the future trajectory of this country if we have no freedom of expression, no freedom of speech? Oh yeah, but we don't have freedom of speech in the UK. Fuck off, why not? Why can't we get it, right? Why can't we have a fucking First Amendment type thing like they've got in America? Why can't we introduce new freedoms and laws to expand the freedoms that we fucking have, to say what we want to say, to do what we want to do? Right? Why is it that every new law and new policy change makes life just that ever so much more shit? Why does everything make everything worse, right? No matter if it's a left-wing government like Labour, which is not a fucking left-wing government by any fucking stretch of the imagination, considering they're continuing the austerity measures that the Conservative government put in, which is the most right-wing fucking, is the literal definition of right-wing economic fucking policy, right? If we're continuing that under the Labour government, they're not left-wing by any stretch of the imagination, whilst also implementing these fucking authoritarian measures to restrict our freedoms and to restrict particularly our freedom to protest, right? And I bet to even do this. What happens if there's some kind of retroactive change, which means that I have to take this video down for whatever reason? What happens if I have to take this video down because I get some threat from the police? Why should that be even something I have to worry about because I made a fucking YouTube video? Because I sat in a fucking field by a road and talked about some of the latest policy changes over the past 5 years, right? You get people now that you know, there's always a new news story of like, this WhatsApp group said some nasty stuff and then like people in it got arrested, right? And and you know, the people that are saying, you know, like, usually I look at it and I see the messages and I'm like, those people are fucking disgusting dickheads. But I think there's something a little bit fucking evil about the idea of snooping on everyone's text messages and arresting people based on what they say in those text messages. It's the equivalent of the fucking Stasi sitting at the pub with a fucking pint with some shades on, a big fucking bowler hat, going, "Dissent, squadron, fucking get him," right? And then suddenly I can't even fucking say it. The Gestapo come in and just fucking bring them out and arrest them, right? But I suppose this is all just fucking, fearmongering, I don't know what you want from me, right? If people are like that. You're just happy to let our freedoms be eroded. You just don't care, right? because it's not currently the end of the fucking world. We might as well just continue on this trajectory towards it. And then what? What happens when we lose every freedom that we've ever had, right? What do we do then, right? How is this not the definition of fascism, right? Considering the amount of nationalist rhetoric that goes around with our anti-immigration laws, right? About like, oh yeah, fucking Britain for the British and all this sort of shit. You know, the Rise and Reform Party, which is pretty explicitly, you know, white, British for white British people, you know, all this sort of shit. How is it not the rise of fascism? I'd like someone to tell me. I really would. And if it's not, oh fucking no, it's not the literal rise of fascism. It's, you know, it's just the increase in rampant authoritarianism. Oh no, right? Whatever it is, whatever fucking label you want to put on it, it's disgusting, the trajectory that this country is taking. It's fucking evil what the people in this government are doing, right? And the fact is, I had to take that video down that I originally made, right, about how that policing protest bill, I had to take it down because of a glib comment that I made about stabbing Michael Gove with a stake through his heart, right? Obviously a reference to how he's a fucking vampire, and vampires are generally known as evil, right? Incitement of violence, right? So, what? Don't do anything. That's my incitement. Don't do anything. Just sit there and just let your freedoms get taken away from you, day in and day out. Just let this government just treat you like a fucking dog. That's it. What else is there to say? I don't see any positive future here. We've got three parties that are working against us. Any new party will just get bought out by lobby groups with think tanks like Labour fucking Together, Labour Friends for Israel, or whatever the newest ones are on that fucking road. I can't remember the name of the road. There's a specific road that has a load of right-wing think tanks on it that are all just designed just to, you know, introduce policy that just make all of our lives worse, right? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see anything good coming. This all scares me, right? I mean, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to leave this country. I like this country. I like the culture here, right? There's thriving communities all around me, and this place means a lot to me, right? But I suppose that makes me what, some kind of nationalist because I like the country that I fucking live in and was born in and spent all my time in, that I've grown up in, right? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? What can we do, right? Because, you know, it's all well and good me sort of maybe putting some fucking form in the description, a petition, please government, please take away the online safety bill, for them to just turn around and just go, oh yeah, but it's to protect the children from online pornography and harmful content. It's like, fuck off, right? Just fuck right off. I don't know. I really don't know. If you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. And I know this video wasn't massively coherent. I know it was just a rant, a fairly like all over the place one. But, you know, it is what it is. And I'll be really curious what happens because of this video. Probably nothing, right? But I mean, I feel like I've said stuff that's veering on the edge, you know, and I shouldn't have to feel like that because I haven't said anything wrong, right? Fucking joke.